Hi. We've got 14 on so far.
Hi, Maya. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hi, Carla. Let me shut off my music.
Let me mute everybody.
Hi.
Hi. Let me see if I can mute the volume of some. If everybody could mute your microphones, please.
And I think you have the capacity to go in and...
Yeah, I'm doing that as well.
We still have 3 minutes before start time, and we have a 10-minute grace period for everyone to roll in. So, hi, beauty. Beautiful. So I'm going to grab myself some tea and be back in just a moment. Carla, is there anything that you need from me?
No, I'm all set.
Okay.
Take your time.
While I take my pee break to make sure that I don't have to get up and pee during the call, a lot of tea this morning. I want to just remind everyone that we have the incredible Carla here who's going to be holding space for this container. And she's logged in as Maya admin. And so if you have any questions that come up during the call, or even right now, send them in a chat to her. I might even start out the call by just really kind of checking in with the field and seeing what's up. There's a lot moving here. So Carla, can you send those instructions to everyone?
Yes.
On the chat? Okay, great. I'll be back in 1 moment.
Okay.
All right. Is my video on?
Yes, it is.
It is.
I see you as on. Yes.
Oh, cool. I see myself now. Great. Ha ha ha. All right. We are 1 minute past the hour. We are going to keep the doors open for 10 minutes. Carla, if you could support with everyone being muted and videos off. Hi. As they come in. So we're going to start this meeting with everyone's video off and muted. And then at about 10 minutes, Carla, if you could close the doors officially. Hi, everyone. If you feel like taking yourself off of mute and just saying hi, just to give me some energy so I can feel you here. We've got 24 of us right now.
Hi, love.
Hello. Hi, Maya.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Hi.
Woo, wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, so we're going to continue to try this format of, in general, keeping the video off and keeping the mute, just because technology can be such a wild card. And, you know, as I'm trying to share and transmit, having some of the random audio, video flickering on and off could potentially be distracting. So we're going to continue to try it like this. So thank you for being here as part of the experiment. So are there any questions that came through initially, Carla, in the chat? It doesn't look like it. I'll just see if anything wants to come in. Hi, everyone. Oh my gosh. Welcome to call to Holy Fire, Resurrecting the Deep Feminine, Module 1, The Deep Feminine. We had such a powerful week. I'm actually pretty blown away by what is happening in this container. And I want everyone to really take a moment and just honor that. There's a lot of energy moving in this container, and a lot of people are coming forward and saying, oh my gosh, I've never felt this kind of energy and activation and potency, especially in an online course. A lot of people are saying it feels like they're in a deep retreat space. So I want to really honor that, and I want to honor that we're inside of something that is bigger than me, bigger than us, very, very, very potent, and people are being worked very, very deeply. So I want to honor that. That there's a potency and a gravity here that is worthy of our noticing and respect and bowing to that. I want to say a couple things to that. One is this is spiritual work. This work is not intended to be a replacement for trauma work, psychological healing work. It's my belief that spiritual work and psychological healing work, trauma work, go hand in hand. They are incomplete without each other. We need both. There are things that spiritual practice can open us into that psychology can never touch. And likewise, there are tools for healing and integration that happen through psychology that spirituality cannot touch. So please keep that in mind. Get extra support if you need extra support. Continue to work your own attachment wounding. I certainly am. And allow this space to be a spiritual practice, because in essence, that is what it is. So that being said, there's so many directions and so many rivers that I could take here. And part of what I'm doing in this course is I'm modeling and living for you this surrender, really. Because although part of me knows what I'm doing, part of me does not. Part of me is really showing up as much as I have the capacity to, with a quality of suppleness and not knowing. and availability to be moved, to speak into the moment. And there's a vulnerability that comes with that, and I'm present to that vulnerability in this moment. And that was one of the pieces that I really wanted to get through today, was that part of our overvaluing of the masculine, right? And in week 1 and week 2, we're really examining that. We're exploring this overvaluing of the masculine, and what is it to really value this deep feminine space. So one of the ways that we do that is by hyper tracking our progress. Hyper tracking our progress. The linear progression of our own successes and failures and growth and achievements, and, the ladder that we think we're climbing. And that shows up in courses, yeah? Notice that. And notice that there is also a dimension to reality that is the feminine, that is the linear, the liminal. She's just in the periphery of what you can see. She's what you are not directly looking at, but that's part of how she flourishes. That's part of how she flowers. She doesn't want to be examined. She doesn't want to be grasped onto and dissected. She wants space and room to breathe, to blossom in the darkness of the mystery of the not known. So please, in your heart, continue to give value to that process that is also unfolding, the unfoldment of your own soul, which your conscious, linear, tracking mind will never comprehend, and shouldn't, actually. And that's a good thing. So you can relax. Yeah, let her do her thing. Let's all start out with a practice together. Hopefully you've been exploring some of the content on Trello. And I want to speak to these micro practices for a moment. It was very interesting because I got so much feedback from people on Facebook this week about the practices that they were exploring. And the only thing that no one talked about was the yoga of fascinating wonderment. And I thought that was interesting because in some ways it's the most important piece of all. In fact, in some ways, if all you do is that, you're going to be set. So I want to explain fascinating wonderment. The essence of Tantra is really the deep feminine path. How do we enter into this body and enter into this natural state of being in a body which is joyful and supple and alive and making love to existence, making love to the moment? So many of my favorite tantric practices, which are about remembering who we are in an instant, they require an inner attitude of fascinating wonderment. What does that mean? It means that we live our lives on autopilot so much of the time, right? Yet we possess the ability to choose an inner attitude of fascinating wonderment, which is passion. Passion, curiosity, availability, that innocent curiosity, that openness. And you can feel it in yourself right now that it actually is a choice. You can engage that inner attitude, that inner stance as a yoga, as a practice. And the reason why it's so important is because that quality of passion, where you're pouring your whole self in, that quality of curious availability, that is literally the key that opens the practices. Everything that we're doing gets activated through taking an inner quality of passionate, yes, curious, available. Available means I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm curious and I'm listening and I'm available to see. So I want you to engage that quality of fascinating wonderment. Fascinating wonderment is like you're witnessing something and you forget your own name. You absorb yourself so fully in it, right? So let's do a little practice right now. And I want you to engage that quality of fascinating wonderment, of passionate, innocent, curious availability as we practice. So, closing your eyes and feeling yourself slowing down inside. And as you start to slow down inside, you can imagine that you are actually dropping into the spaces between the seconds. So if you can feel like the second hand of a clock, what is it like to fall into the spaces in between the ticks? To stretch out the moments so that they become longer and deeper. Curious, passionate. And feel what you start to touch when you slow down in this way. Feel what you begin to have access to when you fall into the spaces between the moments. And let yourself take a breath that's a little bit deeper, all the way to the bottom of your feet. Let a little bit of sound come through the exhale down to the feet. And then another breath, this time into the root. And then another breath, this time into the sex, into the womb and the pelvis. Passion, curious, available. This time into the heart. And now into the back of your skull and the back of your head. Feel how your experience of the moment changes when you engage that passion, that inner curiosity and availability. Letting the cynical jadedness melt under the fire of that passion and that innocent curiosity. Let's do the micro practice from last week, which is called the sex of the breath. And we'll just do 2 breaths. You can do it on your own time. The only instruction is to be so passionately with your breath, every tiny morsel of it, and to pause at the top of absolute fullness. Enter that space of fullness with your whole passionate being, and then be with the entire exhale, and then merge with the emptiness at the bottom of the breath. Pour your whole self in. Simple, curious, available, passionate. Let's begin now. Just 2 breaths with everything that you've got, with all that you are. So notice how the quality of your inner passion and curiosity and availability transforms your experience of the moment. I want to, in this moment, just open up anyone who wants to share their experience of that practice or their experience of this week. We're locking the meeting now. If you want to raise your hand and share something, my intuition is to open this space before I go more deeply into the next level of this work this week, the next layer. I just want to touch in to feel if anyone wants to say what has been moving, what has been challenging, what has been transformative, what has been confusing, what has opened. Kate, I'm going to call on you here. I'm going to turn your video on. And Carla, I welcome your support to help people get their video and audio at any point. Hey, Kate. Just need to unmute you. Somehow that's not working. Kate, can you unmute yourself? There we go. That should work. Can we hear you?
Wasn't working for me either. Now I think we can hear her.
Hi, Kate.
Hi.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we're all with you.
Just everything that you said at the beginning about how much is moving and how powerful it is really resonates with me. I feel like I've come now to the point today where like a river's opened up. There are a lot of tears, but it just does feel much more supple and open and available, and I can talk about, yes, I really want this. There are a lot of tears, but they feel really healing tears. Yeah, it's just moving through.
Thank you so much, love. So beautiful to feel you in the river. Yeah. Thank you. Is there anything that you want to share about your process of breaking through the...
I think so I did try to do it in a really linear way. It is and it was the birthing thing that really, I made a lot of noise. It shifted. In fact, I listened, just felt there's more, and I listened 3 times. And then later on in the day, and then I rested a lot, really tired. And then as I left the house, there was a removal outside with nobody, and my street is moving. And as I walked outside, the removal van started up and drove down the street like I blessed it. Yeah, I'm not sure. I have been doing the micro practices as well, and I could feel the spiraling drop me into a really deep space. It's like the others, I could get my mind involved, but the spiraling just dropped me into a really deep space. Actually, I do have a question.
Yeah.
Just every now and again during the week, the spiraling that drops me into that deep space, I can be doing something quite mundane and I feel that space.
Yes.
But I have to just stop and like lie down, or if I was, it happened when I was driving and I just thought, I've got to pull over. It's like, yeah, it is just like a river that's, I feel it's mercy.
So my sense is that you've just opened a dam. Yeah. And that capacity to, I know exactly what you mean. I mean, I experience that deep river of her as I'm going about all these linear, mundane things, right? And it's there for me to draw from and drink from and make contact with and be informed by. But it makes sense to me that if you had this big, opening of like, oh my God, here's this river. It's gonna be a little bit rocky at first, kind of getting, you're learning to swim, right? You're learning to swim. Does that feel true?
Feel true.
Okay, yeah.
It talked about lots of tears, but it is just lots of love as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, so much love to you. Thank you. Yeah. I don't know. Carla, if you could support beautiful Kate here, that would be wonderful. So, yeah, I want to speak to this river, and I want to speak to, because today and this week, what we're really going to go deeper into is the process of surrendering, the process of becoming supple. And what we start to have access to in our own soul, in our own being, through that suppleness, through that surrender. And a lot of spiritual paths talk about surrender, like it's this concept, I'm just going to surrender and let go. It's like, what does that even mean? What I'm talking about is actually through the body. Through the body. And I feel called in this moment to just speak to one of the ways that my soul, my truth, my being, and you can hear it in my poetry, the voice that comes through, one of the ways that I am called to stand for the goddess, to stand for the feminine, is taking out a sword and slaying this idea that one day we're going to arrive at a place where everything is just right, where we've got the perfect job and the perfect life and the perfect husband and the perfect orgasm and the perfect amount of money, and our wounds are healed and we're fully in our power. This dream that we're chasing, that is part of the clench. It's part of the clench of what I'm calling the junior masculine, the distorted masculine, the hyper controller. That's just chasing, trying to get there. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. Yet have you noticed that we never get there? We never actually arrive. Because the truth is that reality, the reality that we live in, is the goddess, is the feminine, and she is messy, and she drips, and she oozes, and she bleeds. So part of surrendering and becoming supple and opening is cultivating the capacity to access the deep, where there is this contact with soul, with fulfillment, this bottom of the ocean that it doesn't matter what's happening on the surface waves. We can dance with it. Oh, the pain, the pleasure, the success, the failure. We know that it's never going to stop. undulating, shifting, changing. And we can dance. We can dance with her, right? We can dance with the play. And that's liberation, right? That's really true empowerment and true liberation, is to be willing to dance with the totality. Yeah. So as I've shared a little bit, I think mostly on Facebook, every week we are, as we deepen into this deep feminine current, we're also examining a distorted aspect of the feminine. Week one, it was, her rage and her anger at the masculine and at the world and at men, for this sense of being repressed, diminished, not listened to, not honored. Week two is really about the distorted feminine's fixation on appearance. And this is not just about the attachment to looking beautiful. That's a part of it. But it's also the way that the feminine can get very caught up in how things look and wanting to get them just feeling and looking a certain way, right? Because if we want to go in the deep, if we want to surrender to the deep, we're going to have to let go of the surface. We're going to have to soften our grip on how things look. Fatima had her hand up. I want to call upon Fatima. Fatima. Fatima, did you still want to share?
Hello.
Hi,
Can you
beauty.
hear me?
Yes, we're all with you.
No, I'm fine. I mean, I would like you to go with the flow, what you're saying, and I can say something afterwards. Right now, I'm not in the moment to speak now.
Okay, got it. Understood.
Yeah, yeah.
See the totality. It comes, it goes. The moment arises, it passes. And, to remain supple, it's very vulnerable and very powerful. So if you watched the webinar and if you've done workshops with me, you know about this practice that I offer called the surrender process. And the surrender process in many ways is the most important and foundational practice of this mystery school, because it's the way that I have discovered to open to the deep feminine current in my body. And the reason why week 1 and 2 are so much about this surrendering and becoming supple and opening the body to this feminine current is because I want you to get a taste of surrender. Because as we build into the bigger embodiment work of the second and the third module, if you don't at least have a taste for surrender, you're probably going to try to do it in a masculine way. Because that's just how we roll on planet Earth. Yeah. So, okay. I want to read one of the codes for this week. It's called the Water Code. And I want to invite you to close your eyes and feel these words in your body and feel how they land inside of you. And feel what it's like to soften your body into the words and let them touch you, let them impact you. So, float. Not only shell, but in the dancing atoms of this body. Float. She is always right here. Let the space that surrounds you become water. Let the space that pervades you become water. Taste the truth of your liquid body. The soul knows this river and longs to come home. Within and all around, struggle and sink, or let go and float. Let your body be this water. Soften your knowing. Let the river take you. I want to share the surrender code next. Sweet beloved, let it come to you. You think you make this moment happen, yet you long to be danced, don't you? Somewhere in between controlling and collapsing, there is a river made of starlight. To know this kiss of existence, to let it touch you deep inside, where the dancer and the dance are one, become supple. Supple is the key. Supple in the body, supple in the bones, supple in the core, supple in the heart, supple in skull, supple in eyes and tongue, supple in ego, supple in root, supple in mind. Supple is the bridge between one and another. Supple is the portal to receive. True lovemaking lives here. Only fools and children know this way. It is for the pure of heart, for those who are wild enough to give everything away. You must know the yoga of fascinating wonderment, of curious innocence. Be available to be surprised. Supple will plunge you into the heart of wonder. Supple will make you arrive. Nourishment lives here as a tiny whisper held inside a breath. The hand that grasps can never hold what is most precious. The heart that grasps can never taste that unnameable beloved. Sex and life are two words describing just one place. Suppleness will wear down the wall between your heart and God. So melt. So I'm going to take us into the surrender process now, and I want to say that our habits of tension and resistance are so strong that oftentimes when we start to let go, we collapse into exhaustion, into a puddle. And this art of surrendering and this art of becoming supple and receptive and open is like the middle ground between the tension of control and the collapse of exhaustion. It's neither tension nor collapse. It's a middle space. It's a middle ground. And there's something that happens in that middle ground that is pure magic. We gain access to something that I've probably tried to explain in a million different ways here, but my words will never quite touch it. So, as we start to become supple, one of the things that can really support us is that pillar of stillness, of that divine masculine. So I want everyone to close their eyes, and if you did the deep dive practice this week, you got that transmission. And if you didn't, that's okay, and you can get it now. But just imagining that all along your spine, there is this pillar of radiant stillness. And actually feel the stillness, feel the quality of the infinite silence and stillness of your core. And feel how it is so still that even your breath doesn't disturb it. The breath just passes right through. It's so still that you don't need to hold on to it to make it be still. It's still without you having to try. It's so still that even my words don't disrupt it. My words just pass right through stillness. So in some ways, the stronger and more solid this inner stillness, the more we can surrender into the feminine. This is the masculine holding that keeps us from just getting lost and intoxicated in the nectar that is the feminine, or overwhelmed by the intensity of the feminine. So if our habitual conditioning is to be embodied in a masculine way, which is to be in a state of doing, penetrating, controlling, and if the feminine is a state of receiving and being, then what we need to do is undo the places of our habitual conditioning. And that's what this surrender process is designed to do. And again, I want you to engage your passion, your curious availability, your willingness to be surprised. Take that inner attitude as much as you can as we go into this practice. So the embodiment of the deep feminine, the way to surrender and become supple to this current of the deep. What I have discovered is it is primarily through 4 gateways. So before we step through the gateways, I want you to slow down inside. Bringing your attention into the body, into the core. Feel that radiant pillar of stillness holding you in the deep. Don't hold the breath. Let the breath be free here. So the first gateway is to really drop the face. To drop the bottom lip. To let go of all expressions, all pleasing, pretty, attentive performance of the mask of this face. And we drop the mask so that we can go deeper than the surface. So feel and sense into how when you really literally drop your face, you start to feel someone underneath. You start to touch something underneath. Bottom lip open so that the breath can come in and out of the mouth. Melting the mask of the face off of the bones of the skull. Just releasing this identification with face. And the next gateway is to soften your belly from deep inside. And as you drop in this way, you might notice the little places of resistance, the places that don't want to let go, and you just call to them, beloved, it's okay. And you feel your sincere pleasure in dropping. You allow yourself to feel your own love and desire and passion, something deep inside you that yearns to let go. Dropping the belly, softening the belly from deep inside, letting go of all the little restrictions and holding and tensions and pulling in of the belly, just letting it drop. And you might be able to feel when you drop your belly that there's this river between your sex and your heart, between your primal, primordial, orgasmic, passionate energy and the sweet, loving tenderness of your own heart. The belly is like the dam that connects them. And opening the belly, there's this exchange between them that's allowed. Finding that middle ground where you are really dropping. You're really letting go, but you're not collapsing. You're not falling over. You're not falling asleep. You're staying here, staying awake, supple, open, dropped, feeling. And the third gateway is to inhabit the back of your body. To literally feel that you are inside the space in the back body, which again means letting go of the surface. Letting go of the attachment to the surface and resting back in the deep. Feeling the depth of the body, the space inside the back of the head, the back of the heart, back of the pelvis. Feel what it's like to really fill up back here as though you're resting in the back of your own throne, inhabiting the back of the body, resting back in the deep. Dropping the face, dropping the eyes, dropping the mouth, dropping the tongue, dropping the belly. Falling into the space between the moments. Just feeling for where you can locate that space that's like a warm bath. You can rest and dip inside. And the fourth and final gateway is to find the suppleness of your own spine by imagining that your spine is a piece of seaweed at the bottom of the ocean. Really feeling how seaweed would move in the water. If you need inspiration, you can open your eyes and look at me. And see if you can really feel that you are being moved by the water. You're not the one doing the moving. You are the one that is being moved. Play with that. The spine can twist and bend and curve. It can wriggle. It can keep dropping the face, keep dropping the belly, keep resting into the back of the body. This is the yoga of surrender. This is how we learn the art of being, the art of receiving, receiving the moment, receiving ourselves, receiving the kiss of existence. This is not a concept. This is a real birthright that we have access to through the vessel of our own body and our own heart. To receive, to be moved, to be ravished, to be touched. Just sensing into what you make contact with here. There's something here that's available only when you really let go. Only comes when you really actually let go. And sometimes our letting go is a flash, it's a millisecond. And that's beautiful. Just relish in those seconds. I really want you to focus on when you're moving your spine, let yourself be impacted by the movement. Rather than focusing on where the movement is going, focus on receiving how the movement touches you deep inside. So you can You can continue with the suppleness of the spine, or you can come into stillness, but just keep feeling into how you can choose to drop and what becomes available through this dropping, through this softening, through this suppleness. Something comes alive, something comes to meet you here. And the final invitation, and this is one of the micro practices of this week. So I want you to feel that your eyes begin in the deep back of your head right now. This back body resting in the deep. And I want you to slowly open your eyes and find an object to focus on. And I want you to rest in the back of your body, in the back of your eyes, and let this object come to you. In other words, don't reach for it with your seeing. Rest back and let it come to you. And see what happens. Notice how every time you drop, every time you surrender, something is given. Something is received. So this process, this surrender process is so profound, and it leads into this experience of existence streaming through me and me streaming through existence in this never-ending erotic dance. And it can go very deep. You can do this for, hours if you want. And you can also choose it in an instant. And that's one of the micro practices of this week. Is when you're out in the world, you're going about your doing to see what happens. If you choose to drop your face, drop your belly, slow down, rest in the back of the body, and find a little bit of suppleness in the spine. See what happens. See what you gain access to. See what you begin to taste. This is what I mean by the deep feminine space being a channel change. This is a world that is always here just under the surface of where we are normally living from. And it is filled, if you can just taste right now, it is filled with this quality of power, bliss, fullness, soulfulness, aliveness. beauty, truth, God, what do you call it? I don't know. there's no words. And in fact, I actually wanted to try to do a little breakout. Oh, I see. They're requesting that I back up. Sorry about that. By now, I'm sure you all have noticed that my devotion and my love for the transmission and for this work means that I'm not very focused on the surface appearance. So sometimes my head goes out of frame and my sharing is raw and real. And that's just how I roll. I thank you for that reminder, Carla. Keep staying here, beauties. Keep staying. Keep dropping. And I'm going to offer another piece of the transmission because I really want you to get this. And this is like working a muscle. This is the surrender muscle. We aren't trained to surrender, right? So I want everyone to just do this movement with me. And thank you, Carla. So do this movement, and I want you to really go with the movement, like be with the doing, almost like you're one step ahead of yourself. Like be in the space where your hand is about to go. Really just meditate on that. Feel what that's like to be in the current of the doing. Where am I going? Be one step ahead of yourself. Okay? Okay, now let that go. And now I want you to do it again, but this time be one step behind yourself. Rest in the place where your hand was. And just fall into that space. You can close your eyes if you need. Just keep doing that. So that's being. That's the space of being. I want you all to feel in this moment. Let's just do a quick version of the surrender process. Drop your face even more. Drop your belly. Feel yourself inside. Rest into the throne of the back body. And then find a little bit of suppleness in your spine. The spiral practice should have really prepared you for that. And I want you to become aware in this moment of the quality of fullness that's here, the quality of fulfillment. Let yourself have it. Let yourself make contact with it. It's here waiting for you to notice it. Tantric practice utilizes the power of imagination because when we imagine something to be true, we make contact with the place where it is true. And even though you've got all these other parts running that are hungry ghosts, chasing fulfillment, cynical, nothing's working, I'm not there. I got to get there. I got to get the surface to look a certain way. I want you in this moment, as you drop, as you surrender, to notice the quality of deep fulfillment, fullness. Go there with your felt sense. Go there with your attention and drink from that place. Literally pulling it in with your inhale, saying yes to it. And notice this paradox of the more you drop, the more you surrender, the more you have access to it. This nectar of your own presence. This nectar of the soul. This nectar of who you are in the deep. So we're going to do something pretty radical now. I want you all to open your eyes and look at me, and I want you to start to become aware in this course as you watch me, if you haven't already, the ways that I am in devotion to remaining down here and speaking from this place. And I mention this because I know a lot of you, when I spoke to you about the course, were expressing a desire to be able to speak from this place, which is a whole nother layer to the yoga, right? Because we can rest here, but then oftentimes when we go into doing or speaking, we speed up and we twist up and out and away. So what I want to experiment with is we're going to do a little breakout group, and you're going to be paired with two other women. And I want you to keep dropping, and I want you to really not feel like you need to go into any kind of chit chat, small talk, see if you can stay in the vulnerability of being supple and open and not knowing, and just share a little bit about what you make contact with in this space, what it feels like to drop here. And I don't know if this is going to work, but let's see. All right, Carla, let's do this. Let's go for it. 10 rooms of 3 each. Beautiful. And it's just going to be a couple minutes each. I don't know if people can still hear me, but just a quick share, couple minutes.
Hey y'all, I hope you can hear me. If there's any questions that you guys are having about this breakout room option, it's a first time we do this, so feel free to send any questions out to me, Maya admin, please.
And I think we're going to wrap it up in a moment. We just wanted a little bit of a taste. So I don't know how it works if people can hear me. But maybe Carla, because I was able to hear you, if you could share that we're wrapping up, and then we're going to join back in the big group. And if you could really clarify too that we're not ending the call, we're just ending the breakout portion. And then how do we have them gather back? What's that?
Do it. Mm-hmm. And then as words come, words that unfold and
Hi, Beauty.
being behind my words.
Hi, Beauty. I just want you to know that for whatever reason, we can all hear you. And that's totally okay if you want to continue. I just wanted you to be aware. Who's this?
Love to everyone.
Who are you?
I'm Amber on a phone with *6 and having no idea how to unmute to mute myself again. And in the unknown, surrendered place of this all experience.
It was beautiful what you shared. Do you want to just continue speaking to that to everyone, because it was very potent. I would love to.
I'm really feeling this behind of my words.
Yes.
And so it helps keep me slow and surrendered into the next moment, next word.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm absolutely enjoying the inner vibration resonance that's just bringing such pleasure through everything.
Yes.
And being just in this deep place is extremely pleasured.
Yeah.
It allows for this wonderment to continue onwards.
Yes. Thank you so much. To me, one of the great gifts of the deep, and we could call it like the Shakti, the nectar, the exquisiteness of the feminine, that it is to be alive. It's like, even in my suffering, even in my confusion, even in my chaos, even when things are not going the way that I want them to, and it's, this place, this source of nourishment, this fullness in the deep is always there. And when we learn to carve our contact with it, oh my goodness, it's such a blessing. It's such a gift. So thank you for speaking to that and to the space behind the words, the power that we can source from that's behind the words. That really resonates for me. Does anyone want to share or ask a question? Someone has raised their hand. Sarah, I'm going to unmute you and ask to start your video. There we go. Amber, I'm going to mute you. Thank you so much for sharing. Thanks everyone for just playing with technology and we're surrendering and we're doing technology at the same time. Sarah, can you speak and see if we can hear you?
Can you hear me?
Hi.
Hi.
Hey.
So as we dropped in and I dropped down in that surrender space, I noticed that, and then we broke out into the groups, I noticed that as others were speaking from that surrender place, the listening that I felt it really hard to have words to speak. Like I was just really present, and it was really hard to navigate that, to have words. I just wanted to be and to just see the beauty of what was sitting before me. So it was really hard to give it words. So I don't know how you do it, speaking from that place.
Well, sometimes I'm speechless. I get it.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. Yeah. The fullness is so full that there's nothing to say. It's just intimacy and wonderment.
Yeah. Thank you.
Listening. Yeah, thank you for saying that. That's beautiful. Really beautiful. Yeah. Okay. We've got Nima here. Unmuting. Asking to start video. I'm notoriously terrible with names. That might also be my commitment to letting go of the surface, but I apologize if I forget anyone's name. And Nima, if I'm saying your name wrong, please correct me.
It's fine. It's perfect. It's Mima.
Mima, hi.
I love.
Share yourself.
So my experience was a little bit different. I got caught with the frustration of disconnect because of technology.
Uh-huh.
So I went into the little anxiety of panic. I stayed within the surrendering.
Uh-huh.
I felt myself falling behind, and then I said, okay, it is perfect how it is.
Uh-huh.
I started working with it and answering questions and whatever. I knew I was completely somewhere else, and I decided to just drop in and do my exercise however it was going to show up, wherever I was going to be, and trust that's how I was going to connect with my group in some kind of way. And I just surrendered. And I think that was the lesson for me, because I'm so much in the doing. And as you noticed, I'm always checking. There's no this uploaded. I don't have the link. And I'm like, and I say, okay, this is the message for me. Just surrender how it is, wherever I'm at, however it shows up. So it's powerful that way as well.
Wow, thank you. You remember what I said about the goddess of reality being a dripping, oozing, messy?
Mm-hmm. It showed up.
There's something about cultivating our love for that, like our sincere worship and love for the messiness. That is, I think, really important in cultivating this grace and this intimacy with what is and with ourselves, because we're just never going to get it shiny, I mean, it's just never going to happen.
Literally, because I've always been, everything in such a, I was the child that would not eat the cake because I was afraid to dirty my dress.
Right.
Can you imagine? And it's like not enjoying life because.
Yes.
So it's perfect. Do you see how it's just the intelligence of this training that you are leading? You're brilliant.
How was it for you when you surrendered to the not workingness?
It was complete peace. I was like, that's it. That's how it is. It has its perfection, and I get to trust that it's perfect for me.
Beautiful. Yeah.
So,
Thank you so much, love.
thank you.
Yeah. Love you. Anyone else want to share? Fatima does. I wanted to say one thing quickly before I go to Fatima, which is that, you know, this surrender doesn't mean that we become like passive and, you know, whatever. It's not about that, right? I find, in fact, that the more supple and receptive and surrendered I become, the more honed in my instincts become, my intuition, my ability to respond to the moment. So this isn't a collapse again, right? And if you read what I posted on Facebook the other day about the distorted masculine and distorted feminine, so we've been looking at the distorted masculine a lot because that is kind of what we've all been conditioned into. It's like everyone's living in the distorted masculine primarily, which is the great clench, the great controller, right? But the other side of that, the distorted feminine, is that collapse, you know? Surrender is not a collapse. Surrender is a becoming supple. It's a softening of our resistance. It's an opening. And there's something that we gain access to in that I don't want to even sully with words. It's so precious, but I know that you're starting to taste it. Aresta, I'm going to call on you now. Starting the video, unmuting. Aresta, can you speak and see if we can hear you?
This?
Hi,
Can you hear
Vee.
me?
Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
I think the most beautiful thing for me was in this surrendering and dropping the experience of timelessness. I'm so chased by time and the clock and how much time I have, how much time I don't have, and how do I use it, and I'm behind and I'm ahead, that I was just there. I had to keep checking my cell phone to see if I was in the group, and I thought, I guess I am, so just let go. And this beautiful, beautiful freedom of timelessness. It's freedom. Yeah, it was gorgeous.
Well said. Well said.
I felt carried. I felt like being in a river, like on a raft, just being carried and I wasn't floating. I just felt like I was being carried by something, but I didn't feel heavy. I just felt there was, timelessness, I guess is what it was. No boundaries.
Beautiful. Thank you. Yes. Totally. I love that. And this river is always here, women, and you can dip in, you can dip a toe in, you can submerge, you can spend an afternoon there, or you can, draw from it in an instant. It's always here. Thank you so much for sharing that, Timeless piece. That's really beautiful. So we are at an hour and a half now, and I know that the pods are probably wanting to meet, but I do want to check out the questions. So we're going to go a little bit over the time, speaking of timelessness. And I want to also, Carla, if you could remind me if I forget, I want to talk about the spine before we get off, because it's really important. So Allison is asking what to do with the habitual collapsing sleepiness, desire to disappear, how to bring oneself back without the hardening effort. Yeah, it's a practice, So remember when I was talking about fascinating wonderment, that inner attitude of passion, curiosity, availability, you have to intentionally engage that. So it's like, to me, it feels like I'm becoming supple in my body, but inside of my own being, I'm very awake and excited and passionate. Oh, this is really important. I really wanted to transmit this. When we are surrendering, we're not dissolving. We are dropping into something that is greater than us. What is that thing? We could call it the ground of love. We could call it our own soul. Whatever it is, I want you to experiment, and this can help with the sleepy collapse thing. It's like you're resting back into something greater than you, and you can feel it holding you. And again, the surrender is not just a letting go, it's a savoring and feeling and sensing into what comes alive when we drop. So keeping that attitude of passion and curiosity and availability as you drop, so that you can really deeply feel and be with the experience of what arises, rather than just collapsing and going to sleep. We want to be awake inside of the experience of surrender, and it's a process and it takes practice. There's a question. I'd love to have Maya speak and share more about how she sustains this throughout her day when she's operating in the world, managing the to-do list of responsibilities, taking actions in her business, and doing life. Something that could help me get out of the compartmentalization of doing life from the masculine. And then it's only designated practice time that I tap in, but pop out automatically once I get back into the world, the day-to-day tasks. Yeah. Welcome to the club, love. I mean, every practice that I'm giving you in this course is designed to help you to slowly start to weave this into your days. And the micro practices are really, really, really good for that. So I guess the biggest, piece of wisdom or offering that I can give you is just to let it be a process, baby steps, slowly but surely. And it is, perhaps for you, I'm just getting intuitively about cultivating the willingness to be vulnerable, because it is quite vulnerable to enter into the world and drop and open and become supple. And it does require a bravery and an intentionality. And we have to fall in love with it. We have to fall in love with the goddess. We have to fall in love with this space and this river. We have to really sincerely fall in love, like a crazy fool that is just passionately, in reverent devotion to this space. We have to make it our beloved. I wanted to share that I spoke with my partner from the deep. I paid attention to what brought me out of the deep when I was speaking. Beautiful. The first thing I noticed was a pull to want to impress with my words that brought me out. It struck me that this is the distortion we are looking at this week, a fixation of looking good. Totally. Thank you for that, Sarah. The attachment to the surface that keeps us from dwelling in the deep. Part of that is our, looking good, putting on a show, putting on a performance. One thing I haven't said, so I'm going to say one more thing and then I'm going to speak to the spine and then we're going to log off because I know that probably there are pods that want to gather. So one thing that I want to say is through the course of our 7 weeks together, because I am facilitating your journey and because I am transmitting something about the deep feminine space, because I'm holding the point of consciousness, right, for the container, you are going to experience a lot of projections towards me, positive and negative. And I want you to examine these projections when they show up as your relationship with the feminine, right? What you notice about me, what attracts you, what you find attractive or compelling, what you find scary, intimidating, off-putting, just be curious about those things because they can give you a lot of information about your relationship to the feminine. Ooh, okay, so I want to speak to the spine before we go. So in the surrender process, which is one of your deep dives for this week, and it's also a micro practice, right? So the 4 gateways are drop the face. You can look at me right now because I think you probably had your eyes closed before. Dropping the face is literally letting go of your expression. Dropping the bottom lip. Softening the belly, really feeling that way that we resist the moment by clenching, by pulling in, dropping, resting into the back body. We have a habit of leaning forward. We have a habit of inhabiting the surface at the front, which is the doing. When we inhabit the back, the space in the back of the body, we gain access to being. Now, the spine is a very important part and it's an art form, and I really want to make sure you get the transmission because it's very easy to just move our spine and just that's not quite the invitation. Remember when I gave you this instruction to rest in the back, to linger in the space where your hand was rather than where it's going? That's how you should be moving your spine. Lingering in the space where your spine was. And the spine is, 360-degree access. It can go so many different ways. And the movement should start very subtle, and you can draw from your spiral practice. But the most important thing is that you're so not going with the doing of the movement, you're so resting back that you feel that your movement is penetrating you. You're receiving the movement. You're letting the movement touch you. And so many of these things I struggle to explain because it is beyond words, but this is my best attempt. See what that gives you when you open to a suppleness in your own spine in such a way that you're receiving the movement. You're letting the movement in. You're letting yourself be impacted and touched by it. So that opens up a space that I would call the deep feminine, deep receiving, deep surrender. I love you all so much. Thank you. I see you. I honor you. I'm amazed by the passion and commitment and devotion of you all. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me If you want support or reflection or guidance, or just, I really love being available to you all. If you want to put yourself off mute and just show your beautiful face, say goodbye, enjoy your pod time.
Bye.
So much
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Maya.
Thank you.
Thank you. The content on Trello is going to be up shortly. Enjoy it. And so much love to you all.
Thank you.
Love you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Mm.